The thing about Be'eri, it was supposed to be a little piece of paradise, a dream come true for people to live here. You see the fruit growing on the trees, the collective spirit, everybody looking after each other, you know, their own agriculture growing. But it's so close to the border. It would have taken minutes, just minutes, for those Hamas militants to get here that morning.
They came through the fence in the back of you. There's a road in the back of the fence. They drove through with heavy machine guns on pickups and just shot everything in sight.
It was in the half-light of the early morning on October the 7th that the day of horror began. The Hamas militants crossing the border, many of them on motorbikes, their AK-47s and their RPGs slung across their shoulders. Filming themselves to later upload their murderous campaign of terror. The date carefully chosen on a Jewish holiday.
Every way they couldn't get it done in a minute. They had flamethrowers, got into the buildings. Every house in the kibbutz has a bomb shelter. And they knew all about it, and what they did, the doors, the metal doors to the bomb shelters is not bulletproof. So they shot through, and those that they couldn't, they either blew it up or they burned the house down on its people.
Well, people living so close to the border are extremely well drilled. If they hear noises, the rocket attacks anticipated, they go to their safe room and they know they'll be safe here. It's got reinforced concrete and a steel door. But this is what happened. People came into the houses, the doors, bullet there. You can't lock the handle. And we've had so much testimony that people spent hours taking it in turns, holding onto the handle so that people couldn't open the door. The problem is, of course, that grenades were thrown and many of these rooms, the buildings were then smoked out. Not this one, but many were. Many families spent hours in here. Can I ask you to paint a picture of those terrifying hours of waiting for the families in their safe rooms?
Since we were in the squad, our families would call us, come be with us. We were afraid. And eventually we found out that the metal doors are not allowed, they couldn't lock them from the inside. So they held the handle and they got shot through the door. And these magnificent young people who went out with us, that young families would call and come back and be with us, stayed outside with hardly any weapons. And I think the heroes are the families who stayed indoors for 36, 39 hours. No water, no air, no nothing. And
just their fear.
Sheer fear.
The Israeli military, now nearby in great numbers, took 12 hours to arrive. They took losses in their fight, walls punctured by artillery, another scar on this community. Why did it take so long for the IDF to go and help these communities?
I think there was a great deal of response by certain units. Clearly, after the war, which is being conducted now, there will be a great deal of investigation, but that's not for now. What we need to do now is be entirely focused on the mission, entirely focused on uprooting this Hamas terrorist organization, which is essentially ISIS, and make sure that they can't do this again. Afterwards, the IDF will conduct its own investigation. I'm sure others will as well.
There is a ransacking that has happened here. Children's bedrooms. You recognise the clothing that your own children wear. Totally destroyed. Stepping on glass, bathroom mirrors. Children's schoolwork on the floor as well in here. A little desk. Photos on the wall of the family. Treasured photos of their family. Where are they now? It took 2 full days to secure the kibbutz, for the retrieval of bodies to begin, a grim task.
When we went into a house, the first house that we went in, we saw a couple, a father and mother, with hands tied to the back, tortured. Tortured, missing body parts while they were alive. On the other side is 2 children, 6-year-old and 7-year-old boy and girl, same position, tortured. We go into the next one. There's a pregnant lady lies on the floor.
The description that follows is too graphic to broadcast. Be'eri was a community of about 1,000 people. They say that more than 100 have now been confirmed dead here. The problem is that, as we can see, many of the homes were burnt. Many of the bodies are charred, and the National Forensic Service, who are trying to identify people, have suggested that not everybody will be identified. There are still a couple of hundred, in fact, who have not been identified. And for the families, that will be just extremely difficult to bear. Where there were homes, there is now destruction. Dreams turn to dust and to war, for now.
We're going to go back home. We're going to rebuild everything, and we're going to claim our life again.